Hello, everybody. My name is Reagan Archibald, and the reason I do these videos and the reason we have this show is because a lot of people are unhealthy, and I don't want you to be one of them. I'm the founder of East West Health, which is an age reversal company that allows you to become unreasonably healthy in the shortest amount of time without sacrificing the most enjoyable parts of life. Your time is your most valuable resource that you have, and so I want to give you easy ways to stay healthy so that you make your next decade your best decade. And by the way, if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review and we will love you forever. And please enjoy the show.
All right. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Unreasonable Health Podcast. This is your host of the day, Kate Archibald, and I am stoked to be here. And along with me is the OG himself, Reagan Archibald. Reagan, how you doing this morning?
Good. Got my blood work drawn this morning. So when they looked at my requisite, they were like, whoa, are you okay? I'm like, no, we go big. And then I told them I'm with East West, and like, oh yeah, we've seen the blood labs that you run, but yeah, the ladies just kept apologizing. I'm like, I don't mind. I do this all the time. But yeah, it was so yeah, I'm good to go. I'm nice and cleaned out.
Yeah, you got a lot of blood drained out and ready to see what's in the mix. Nice. Very cool. Well, yeah, that's a good reminder for everyone. Go, if you haven't recently, go get it done. See what's going on. So we had the last episode, we had a challenge with our Health Accelerator community, or the challenge, and we talked a lot about essentialism. And so finding what's essential in your own life, and I'm really diving into that as the challenge. So just want to extend the challenge to everyone on this platform here, or if whether you're listening to it or if you're joining us live, type into the chat box, let us know how it went. And if you're not a part of our Health Accelerator community, go to acueastwest.com/hack, HAC, and you can be a part of those challenges live as well. All right, well, let's jump in here, Reagan.
Okay.
I know you got some really cool stuff to cover. I'm excited to learn.
Yeah, so there's a real interesting thing that happens as we age, and aging is complicated. I mean, that's just the easiest way to say it, but there's things that we can do to circumvent it. And today we're going to be covering some of the major hormones and talking about why they decline and what to do about that decline, but also we'll be giving you some interesting insights on the peptides that work best to keep hormones intact, but also we'll show you how to maximize your body's own production of BDNF. So how hormones in the brain work together. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen. So for those of you who are watching this on video, you guys will be able to see kind of some of the progression of the drop in testosterone in men. So there's a lot of kind of conversations in the scientific community about why males' testosterone levels seem to be decreasing every year. It gets a little bit lower, and even a man 30 years ago, if we looked at his testosterone levels, in today's world, they would be about 30% higher than where they are now. And so as we look at this, the testosterone is such a critical piece of overall health, not just for men, but women too. And a lot of people don't realize that women have more testosterone in their bodies than estrogen by quite a bit. And so testosterone is a really powerful hormone. But in men, you'll see different symptoms of testosterone loss will show up as, they'll have, lack of confidence. They can have more agitation. The grumpy old man syndrome can start showing up. We even see this with low libido. They want to get stuck in their ways. They don't want to do anything that's outside of the norm or anything that's risky or feels like it takes them out of their comfort zone. These are all signs of low testosterone. And A lot of times it just gets swept under the rug, and it says, well, he's just grumpy, you know, and we take it personal, but it's a big deal. Testosterone is also very cardioprotective. There's a long-term study that showed that men who have healthy testosterone levels had a lower incidence of cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular threats. So if you know of anyone who's got heart disease, testosterone is really key. Another study found that when testosterone levels stayed above 600, you had a decrease in prevalence of type 2 diabetes. And so not only does testosterone help maintain muscle mass, but testosterone is also a really powerful component for memory and brain health as well. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But if you look at the graph below here, and for those of you who are listening on the podcast, at the age of 20, most of us have our, peak testosterone levels. And I've seen this, especially in athletes. I've seen testosterone run in the 1500s. These are professional athletes in their 20s. The majority, like a healthy testosterone level in a 20-year-old is going to be closer to, if you look at total testosterone, closer to, like that 700 to maybe 1,000 range. But then every year, every decade that goes by, we lose about 10% of testosterone, or approximately 1% per year. And then by the age of 40, we've lost about 20%. And what's interesting in this is at the age of 40 is also when we start losing muscle mass. So the average person drops about 1% of muscle mass per year after the age of 40. And about 2 to 4% of that is a loss of strength. And then about 8 to 10% of that is a loss of power. And so as that starts to dwindle, then our testosterone levels start to dwindle, because muscle mass is also a signal to our body to put on more, to produce more testosterone to support the muscle. So pretty interesting. So Kate, you're in your 30s. You're kind of just crossing your mid 30s, getting closer to late 30s. What have you noticed has been the biggest difference from a biological perspective in the last 10 years for you?
Man, that's a really good question. I think the unique thing with me is I feel like my testosterone levels in my like mid to late 20s was probably similar to like a 50-year-old. And then as I made some tweaks and changes, especially like some of these Tesmerelin, Ipamorelin, and then just regular, consistently working out and eating right. And just fine tuning my labs. That's where I actually feel better in my 30s than I did in my 20s. Which is really cool, because when I was in my kind of mid to late 20s, that's when I reached out to you and was like, hey man, I need help. I feel like I'm in the toilet, no energy. And that was one of my factors, was my testosterone was in the tank, and just for whatever reason. So it hit me a lot sooner than it hits most people. It's that low T.
Well, and it's interesting because, if you look back, why would you say it kicked in? Now that knowing what you know, what advice would you have given your 19-year-old self?
Yeah, I think figuring out ways to reduce stress, can just have a consistent workout regimen, whether it could be as simple as, just doing a few push-ups a day, like just doing something to get your heart rate up, and stress management, exercise, movement, and then the right foods. And I think that's where, everyone's a little bit unique, and everybody's body requires different nutrients. And I never really understood that or figured it out. And so I think just having a focus on your health, your energy levels, at that young age, and doing some testing to really understand, okay, what's my body need and what can I do to optimize it? That's where, you know, I feel like I reverse time and flip my 20s into, or my 30s, or actually I feel like I have the health that I should have had in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. The metamorphosis that you've made has been huge. And I look at this and I say, man, if you know someone in their in their late teens who'd be open to this, or early 20s, there's some things that can cause testosterone to decline. And there's ways that you can stimulate it upstream. And Kate mentioned some of the peptides. I actually love using Gonadarelin with our patients because it goes way upstream. It's the precursor to follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. And so it's the testicles that follicular stimulating hormone activates testosterone production and spermatogenesis. And so you can even go upstream by using Gonadarelin, and it's been used for fertility for 25, 30 years. Kate and I were just at a free zone conference in Florida with Strategic Coach, and Stephen Paltra and I were talking about Kisspeptin and Gonadarelin, some of these really amazing peptides that they've used for creating fertility. And so, and he's one of the leaders in, fertility medicine, one of the top 1% fertility doctors in the industry. And so, but you can do things to train your body. But if you think about, total testosterone versus free testosterone, your free testosterone, you're going to want that to be about 2 to 3% typically. But what will happen is free testosterone, it gets bound to another hormone called sex hormone binding globulin. And this, when it binds to sex hormone binding globulin, or SHBG, easier way to remember that is the she bags. And so if it gets bound to that, then it's not going to be available for the cells. And so one of the things you can look at if you're concerned about your testosterone levels, if you say, well, my testosterone levels are low, but my she bags or my sex hormone binding globulin's high, then we know there's a toxic accumulation that needs to be addressed, because a lot of the reason why the sex hormone binding globulins attach to the testosterone and they don't let them out is when there's interferences in the way. So this could be a biotoxin interference. That could be either heavy metal exposure. It could be plastics. Plastics have been very well documented in how they serve as endocrine disruptors, meaning they disrupt the supply of hormones to the body. And even in women, you do not want your testosterone bound to sex hormone binding globulin, because testosterone, specifically free testosterone, helps regulate your menstrual cycle, and it also increases muscle strength. And so, just by having low testosterone as a woman, you don't need to say, oh, I'm off the hook, I don't need this. Actually, it's one of the most important hormones in the body. And then the other thing that happens to testosterone is it's called aromatization. And so if you're a man and you look at your testosterone levels and you say, holy smokes, my testosterone levels are really low, but my estradiol is creeping up pretty heavily. And that estradiol is dangerous, because when our testosterone starts getting eaten up, that's when you can, start developing the gynecomastia, the man boobs. You can get the muffin top. You can start to put on weight. Your cells don't recover as quickly. You don't hold on to muscle mass, and generally just don't feel as mentally sharp. And so it's really important to look at that estradiol. And so this is where there's different aromatase inhibitors that you can use that are natural. Interestingly, pine needles is one of those. You can use, gastrodia is another one, but you also can eat lots of cruciferous vegetables. So sulfur kind of stinky vegetables are amazing for as an aromatase inhibitor. So the other issue that men have is the DHT. And so, Kate, you know, a lot of, you know, if you had a choice, if you could have healthy testosterone levels or keep your hair, what would you choose?
Well, I definitely like to keep my hair. But I'd like to have healthy testosterone levels as well.
It sounds like it's both.
Yeah, yeah, I'd like to have
Yeah,
both.
yeah, and
I'd rather not go either or.
I'm with you on that one. And so this is where when you start working on testosterone, it's the dihydrotestosterone, or the DHT is what it's called. And the DHT is what can, you know, suffocate the hair follicles and kill them off. But there's other things. Anemia can do it. High ferritin. If you have high hematocrit and high ferritin, you do want to be very careful supplementing with testosterone. And this is where there's natural agents that can get you there. And even if you're using like, this is where we like clomiphene, Kisspeptin, Gonadarelin, because they can stimulate these pathways in a very gentle manner. And if you're female, you've got to be careful using Gonadarelin, Kisspeptin, or clomiphene. You typically only want to use it, you know, 2 or 3 days after your period. And so your period ends, and then you can use those peptides to regulate your hormones, but it will disrupt your menstrual cycle. If you're menopausal, it's a little bit different. But the DHT, you know, when you get concerned about that, it can also be a precursor for elevation in prostate-specific antigens, so PSA. And so it can put a little bit of pressure and create a little bit of inflammation on the prostate. But once again, this is where it comes back to detoxification. And if you remove the biotoxin interferences in your body, you remove the heavy metals, you remove the plastics, you eat organic food, you get rid of the glyphosate. And if for those of you who are in our Accelerate Wellness program, you know how good it feels when we take you through the 4 steps, the foundational detoxification and cleansing with CellCore is, you know, by the time we get to step 4, then your body's ready to release a lot of these heavy metals. And that's what the ET is, environmental toxins, and HM is heavy metals. So the ET and HM binder. And then we're also working at eradicating a lot of parasites, a lot of the infections in the body, because infections also drive down hormone levels. And so as we age, it becomes more and more important to continually cleanse and detoxify our body. And this includes exercise. This is why we have the 30-30 exercise that we launch right in your 60-day reset. And that exercise protocol, if you just move your body in the morning, get things flowing. If you don't like exercising in the morning, just do something like a light walk, or jump on an elliptical machine, or you know, do some jumping jacks, and then do your workout in the afternoon. But you need to move your body first thing, because we've been lying still all night sleeping. And even though you get the growth hormone flush, you still need to get your lymphatics moving and clear out some of the old debris. And so that will be some ways that you can do it. You can do dry brushing, you can do hot cold contrasting. Those are great ways of detoxifying your body. And then, like I mentioned before, those binders, specifically the fulvic acid, is a great way of removing a lot of the glyphosate in the body. And so, Kate, you're familiar with glyphosate, but where would people want to look out for glyphosate? Where's the source?
Source is in most of your, like, primarily in processed foods and a lot of your grains, corn, soy, you know, most your wheat as well. And even if it's organic, you got to be really careful with where it's sourced from, because, you know, a lot of those crops, or a lot of those fields, they've used GMOs over the last few decades, and then they try to clean it up and turn it organic, but still there's a lot of residuals from those pesticides that are used. And so that just breaks down your innards. So avoid packaged, a lot of highly processed foods, and focus on like real food. But also you got to be careful with your like vegetables, things like that, that you have, that have been sprayed with any pesticides as well. There's tomatoes. I know those are like very highly genetically modified.
Real quick, I hope you're enjoying the show, but if you're somebody who wants to take your health to the next level, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you realize that you are your only impediment to growth. Maybe you have kids that you're chasing around or grandkids. Maybe your knees are starting to ache. You're starting to notice that aging is catching up. We'll schedule an appointment with one of our health ascension specialists so that we can get the right labs ran for you. And then my team and I can review those labs, meet with you, and get you a personalized peptide protocol put together. And that will help you recover your health, feel, look, and perform your best no matter what age you are. All you need to do is text or call us at 801-582-2011. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So, even in the drinking water, I mean, unfortunately, it's everywhere, but you want to avoid, glyphosate, avoid the biotoxins. We have a challenge in our health accelerator community where we did a week of no plastic. And that one was a very challenging one for a lot of us because you just start looking around and there's plastic everywhere. And, some plastics are harsher than others, but it gave people a good excuse to go put on a water filter on their house. So they stop buying the plastic bottle waters. But and then some of the natural supplements to keep testosterone levels healthy, you want to use like vitamin D, zinc, magnesium. Ashwagandha is a really good peptide, especially for those of you who have any adrenal issues. Fenugreek, tribulus is one that I've used off and on for years. Terastis is another one. These are all phenomenal, ways of naturally giving your body what it needs. You can also, many of you have heard us talk about maca root. There's different variations of maca that can help. And then probably the biggest one right now is the Tongkat Ali. When it comes to testosterone, that one's been shown to improve levels, 10 to 15%, just naturally. And so, from an exercise perspective, the more you work on your quads, your back, your chest, the bigger muscles in your body, you will start to naturally increase your testosterone levels. And so, so there's some interesting things that can happen, but you don't want to push your testosterone too high. I have a lot of men who come in and when you are overdosing on testosterone replacement, that can cause thyroid issues, cardiovascular problems. You can get an increase in muscle mass, but you can also have kidney or liver disorders. And so you just want to make sure you're not pushing it too hard. But low testosterone, like I mentioned before, hair loss, insomnia, psychological problems. The hair loss comes because your body is trying to produce more testosterone. And so DHT ends up being kind of the easiest one for us to make metabolically. And that can damage the hair follicles, increase heart disease, muscle mass reduction, skeletal malformations, mentioned the abdominal fat, man boobs. And then you can also get the genitalia, they can start to shrink. It's called hypogonadism. So not a good thing. So nicer to have some upstream, potential. And so in menopause, what can happen? And menopause and andropause, these are two very important transitions in life, but this is where forgetfulness can come. Estrogen does seem to be very neuroprotective, meaning it has a great way of protecting the brain and memory. And so, that's a common symptom that we hear all the time is brain fog, forgetfulness, hot flashes, nausea, heart palpitations, irregular periods, vaginal dryness, joint aches and pains, mood swings, depression, headaches, night sweats, insomnia, weight gain, bone loss even, and osteoporosis, osteopenia. So it's a very big deal as we lose our hormones. And then in men, when andropause kicks in, it's that decreased motivation, lack of focus, low energy, lack of libido, mild to moderate erectile dysfunction, and then the muscle loss. Those are big signs that you want to look out for. So let's talk about a couple ways that these peptides work, because one of them that I mentioned earlier is Kisspeptin. And Kisspeptins are really, it's a natural hormone that's made by your pituitary, and it's a releasing hormone. But there's a study in 2017 that showed a significant decrease in serum Kisspeptin for men with low sperm count, as well as in fertile men. And the serum Kisspeptin levels were higher in fertile men compared to infertile males. In this study, it provided a link between Kisspeptin levels and the male reproductive fertility status. And so the reason why Kisspeptin is so important is because it does control the FSH and LH, or follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone levels in men, which is what triggers the release of testosterone. And so this is a really good starting place that seems to have general levels of safety, but it also is a way that you can increase your body's own what's called endogenous production of testosterone versus relying on an exogenous source. And so not against using like testosterone cypionate. I think it can be a powerful way of treating hormones, but what if we could do it in a gentler way and allow your body to make it on its own? And that's really what we're going for in this podcast. It's really what we're talking about. Gonadarelin is the other one. And Gonadarelin, it's interesting because a lot of people started replacing this with the HCG, but Gonadarelin and Kisspeptin can be a way of supplementing that with your testosterone therapy. I know a lot of you love your testosterone, and this is men and women. And Kate, you know that the highest level I've ever seen in a woman in their testosterone is 856.
Wow.
And high levels is anything over 60.
Oh,
she felt great. I mean, the normal is like 60. So
really? Wow. And she felt really good.
Yeah, she'd been pushing it that way with an endocrinologist for a long time. And so it's kind of like, well, we don't know. I would not, I'm not advising that by any means, but there's certainly some benefits, and she's super fit. And so it's like, all right. But one of the things that needs to happen is you need a way of not stopping your own internal production of it. And so historically HCG was used, but now the peptide Kisspeptin or Gonadarelin is used. And what we found is that you can cycle on and cycle off of testosterone. And we like to do 90-day cycles and use testosterone and then maybe enclomiphene or Gonadarelin. But even if you're using testosterone, we typically will use Gonadarelin, and that seems to create this nice LH and FSH release so that those pathways don't become numb to the fact that there's already enough testosterone in your body. Because if you think about hormones and how our bodies work and peptide pathways, it's all this communication loop. And so if the hormone is already being produced, then it's going to tell the brain, hey, Reagan doesn't need any more. It's already being produced. And so those pathways start to get dull. And so this is where our proprietary peptide pathways process is really powerful, because that was 5 Ps, peptide pathways process powerful. Say that 5 times. But when you start causing genetic expressions in the body, then the body can actually start producing what it needs on its own, and it changes the entire chemical makeup. So Gonadarellin's another really powerful peptide, and actually it was in my stack this morning. So I've been chatting a lot. What questions have come through so far, Cade?
Let's see. So how to a question. So would you use, it looks like, just wondering on females, Gonadarelin can be used on both male and females.
Correct. Yes. And as can testosterone and as can Kisspeptin. Gonadarelin and Kisspeptin are typically used for fertility, but even like if you look at menopausal symptoms, sometimes just increasing the FH and LSH pathways in the brain, you'll see a little bit of a down regulation of some of the hot flashes if you use that a few times out of the month.
Okay. And then just to clarify, had a clarifying question. You mentioned a few peptides that women should not use very regularly, other than just right after their cycle or right after their menstrual cycle. Which ones were those?
Well, the ones you'd use only the days like right after the period ends. So let's say your period's 5 days, then you could use them for 2 or 3 days in a row, like Gonadarelin or Kisspeptin, and that will balance the overall cycle. That's there's a lot of doctors using that protocol.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, so
any other?
No, I think that's all the questions that have come into me right now. Awesome
Okay, and
stuff. Really fascinating.
Yeah, and then the final piece is, how does testosterone work in the brain? So there's neuroscientists have looked at this factor. It's called BDNF, and that means brain-derived neurotropic factor. And BDNF is really powerful because one of the things it does is it helps us have higher levels of cognition. It's known to create synaptic plasticity, which is where our brain actually can change and it can heal, which you and I have lost a lot of brain cells throughout our life, and so that's comforting to know that there's some neuroplasticity. There's ways of getting it back.
Recover from some of our TBIs.
Yeah, some of the TBIs, and Cade used to sniff a lot of gas at the gas station when he'd be pumping the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's
Sharpies, whatever I could get my hands on.
whatever he could get his hands on. It's just and now as an adult, it's just gotten worse. And so if you're looking for Cade, you'll find him at the gas station. It's organic. It has corn. It's GMO free corn. Yeah, so petrochemicals is one of those we didn't actually mention. But a lot of lotions, cosmetics, soaps, petrochemicals can block your testosterone. But as far as the BDNF goes, testosterone, it increases that expression of it. And there's a peptide called IGF-1. And IGF-1 it's a workhorse for growth hormone. That's insulin-like growth factor 1. And what it does is it unlocks the gene that expresses BDNF, and it controls the function of the neural networks. And so if you have great testosterone, then you're going to have better levels of serotonin and dopamine and acetylcholine and GABA and anandamide, and you're just going to feel this massive level of calm when your testosterone is balanced and when it's regulated. And if you feel irritable, if you take testosterone and you just feel kind of you're like pent up and kind of edgy, then you're just pushing it too hard. You don't need it, or you're using the wrong kind. And you've experienced that, Cade. You decided to try a little bit and it was over the top.
Yeah, I got extremely aggro when that was a few years ago, but yeah, and it could have been that it was just the wrong type as well. I think I was a little undereducated in that, and just talked to the doctor, and he's like, oh yeah, let's do it. And yeah, I think I did 2 weeks, and I was like extremely aggro, and if something didn't go my way, I was like, let's just fight about it.
It's a really good way of living, Cade. Just solve everything with a fight.
Throw off the gloves and we're going at it.
Doesn't matter who's right or wrong. We're just going to fight about it. So, I love that. But when you have the right amount, what testosterone has been shown to do is if you remember dendrites, so you have these dendrites in your brain, and that's where the neurotransmitters and synaptic cleft is. And so what's testosterone has been shown to do is increase the dendritic spine. So you're going to have more of these extensions out of the dendrites, which means you're getting greater neuronal growth. And so you can actually grow your brain being on testosterone. So, or not being on it, but by producing testosterone. So this is one of those reasons, like when you hear, the term like, meathead, or, the athletes don't have any brains. It's usually, that's just not the case. And usually it's just that, the athletes just aren't interested in the subject is all it is. It's why don't we blame it on the damn teacher, for crying out loud? How many boring teachers did you guys have growing up? And it was absolutely a waste of time. And you had no desire, no fascination to learn the subject matter. So, because, even running, actually, they find that the kids in that old study where they gave kids, okay, you can have 2 hours to do all your schoolwork per day, and then you go play the rest of the time. And then the rest of the kids did the conventional way of studying, where they were in school 7 hours. And at the end of the term, they tested both students, and the students that were outside playing had better grades. So why haven't we just changed the whole structure yet?
It's really fascinating. There's that's a whole nother conversation, I'm sure.
This will be maybe we can bring in education in our next series, but yes, this
I think it's fascinating though.
Yeah,
really looking at because I think there's a health and like a complete brain and immersion of like understanding the science and the neurochemistry of the mind and how like we're developing. So if you look at that component as well as how school is structured, it seems like there could be a better way, especially where we're kind of still stuck in the old model.
Yeah, and then we go back to the buildings that our kids are in, like Treasure Valley at Park City, like super toxic. All the tailings from the mines, have ended up in the Park City water supply, and then we've got a lot of heavy metals. The arsenic from the Great Salt Lake. Luckily, that's filling back up with the great winter we've had. But there's all these things, the buildings that our kids sit in, the glues, the plastics, the lack of ventilation, all those things diminish testosterone. I mean, it's fascinating. Even air pollution can diminish testosterone. So hopefully you guys, enjoyed today. We went on a pretty deep, nerdy dive. So much more to learn about when it comes to testosterone, but ultimately get your hormones checked. Think about some of the natural remedies that we presented, and then also think about using peptides to stimulate that upstream pathway. And testosterone, I think your body, from all the research I've done, you're going to do far better on your testosterone therapies if you can continually detox your body. And so, once again, nothing is meant to be, isolated in a vacuum, but really appreciate you guys being part of our community, and hope you enjoyed today's show.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Reagan. Amazing content. So just to reiterate, everybody, if you haven't done some labs recently, reach out to us. You can call us, text us. Go to our website, our number 801-582-2011. Give us a call, shoot us a text, say, hey, I need to get some labs done. And we'll have a health ascension specialist will work with you on getting that figured out. And so love you. Thank you so much for joining us. And
quick question by Diane. So yes, on regular blood labs, we do have to specify hormones. And so next time you get your blood ran, Diane, just say, hey, I want to get my hormones checked, and we'll do it. Cool.
Yes. All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.